Hello everyone, this is Brett and thank you for tuning in to today's video. I've been wanting to make this video for quite a while. It's inspired by a playlist, an ongoing playlist that I've put together of some of my favorite instrumentals. Now, when I'm talking about instrumentals for the sake of this video, I'm not talking about from artists that are known to make instrumental music. These are just regular bands that occasionally have an instrumental on one of their albums. So there's not going to be any like Guitar Hero stuff, there's not going to be any prog rock stuff. It's going to be from bands mostly alternative rock, synth pop, post-punk stuff. And these aren't little musical segues either. These are fully formed songs just done as instrumentals. So everything on this list exceeds 3 minutes. I made this playlist just kind of to put on sometimes when I want to zone out and not have the interference of vocals and thinking about lyrics, etc. So I'll leave a playlist to these 10 songs below so you can check them out. Don't forget to subscribe, and please, if you think of some instrumentals that you absolutely love, feel free to leave me some comments with those. So let's kick things off, and this was really the inspiration is this first song right here, and that is the opening track to Simple Minds' Sister Feelings Call. The kind of their four and a half album. They released 2 albums at the same time, This and Sons and Fascination, and the song is called Theme for Great Cities, and it is one of my all-time favorites. In addition to being a great instrumental, it is literally one of my absolute favorite Simple Minds songs from the Scottish band. If you're unfamiliar, most people would know them from Don't You Forget About Me, which was in the movie The Breakfast Club. Opening track on here has that gritty bass line, that haunting synth, and then it just explodes and soars when it gets into that chorus theme. It's Simple Minds at their best, and I'm really glad that they chose to leave that one as an instrumental and not write vocals to it, because it is a beautiful song. That is my first choice here, Theme for Great Cities from Simple Minds. Next up, probably my favorite track from the Australian group The Church's 4th album, Heyday. And once again, one of my absolute favorite songs in general from The Church, who have just an extensively long catalog. This track is called Happy Hunting Ground, and it closes the first side out. It's an instrumental in 2 movements. Starts off really a slow build. It has this hand percussion, and then you get these layers of panned acoustic guitar strums. There's a bass groove that comes in, and then this electric guitar line. It goes on for a while, and then it just fades away. And then we get the second movement, which has got these little pizzicato strings. You hear this tom percussion, and this percolating delayed guitar that just keeps bubbling up to the surface, and then finally it just boils over totally. It turns into this just stunning string melody. It's goosebump inducing, emotional. Happy Hunting Ground. Check that one out from The Church. All right, and number 3, this is from the first album from Love and Rockets, their 1985 debut, Seventh Dream of Teenage Heaven. It is the closing song, Saudade. Once again, I'm going to keep saying this, but not only is it like a great instrumental, but it's one of my favorite Love and Rockets songs in general. For those of you unfamiliar with Love and Rockets, they formed after the breakup of Bauhaus, so you had 3/4 of the original Bauhaus lineup: Daniel Ash, David J., and Kevin Haskins. So in Saudade, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, it has these haunting, heavily reverb percussive strikes. There's these synths and the arpeggiated acoustic guitars, fretless bass, and there's all these like fake false endings where you think the song has ended and then it just comes back in. Absolutely glorious. Love and Rockets. All right, next up, here's one that I've been trying. I've made a video in the past about hoping that someday it'll actually get a vinyl reissue. And this is the song Iris from the Deconstruction album. Speaking of former members of bands, this came out originally in 1994 on American Recordings, and Deconstruction was a one-off album from Eric Avery, original bass player of Jane's Addiction, with Dave Navarro. And they did a collaborative record here. Absolutely great. If you're unfamiliar, be sure to check out Deconstruction. So anyways, the track Iris, originally called San Francisco, it was written by Dave and Eric, and it was performed live back in the Jane's Addiction sound checks. And but it was never performed live as a band. Some of those soundtrack recordings are available on like bootlegs, but if that's indicative of what a follow-up, an immediate follow-up album to Ritual de Habitual would have been like, it was just it's just one of those things lost to time. But I always think about what that immediate album would have sounded like, and I think Iris is a really good indication of that. Layers and layers of guitars. To me it feels like a cross between Then She Did from the Ritual album mixed with like a 1983 from Hendrix's Electric Ladyland. Iris from Deconstruction. All right, next up, this is from the Manchester Factory Records post-punk, ambient, dream pop, all group revolving around Vinnie Riley. The group is the Durutti Column, and the song is the opening track from the 1980 debut album. It's called Sketch for Summer, produced by Martin Hannett, who worked on the Joy Division records and loads of bands back in that era. Perhaps my favorite song in the Durutti Column catalog. It's this wonderful melodic counterplay between guitar and bass guitar, and it leads into this really kind of funky layered groove that's in the song's second half, and it's gold. Durutti Column, Sketch for Summer. All right, next up, here's an interesting one. From the Three Shadows suite from the third Bauhaus album, The Sky's Gone Out. The track is called the Three Shadows Part 1. So, you know, consisting of the three guys from Love and Rockets that I previously mentioned. But I was fortunate to watch a live version of when my band played with Peter Murphy back in 2011 on the 9th tour, standing on the side of the stage, and he kind of shocked us all with opening with this instrumental song, The Three Shadows Part 1. Mysterious, perhaps the most kind of soundtracky sounding out of anything on this list. Somber, as I said, mysterious, and like the Love and Rockets track, it has all these false endings as well, where you think it's going to end and then it just kind of continues. So The Three Shadows Part 1, really a cool one. All right, next up, this is, if I can get the name pronounced right, from The Cure's rare 1994 cassette Lost Wishes. This is Ouya Sound. Lost Wishes was once an extreme rarity. It's been reissued since, but it was a 1994 mail order limited cassette. 4 instrumentals that were recorded during the Wish album session. Wish is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Cure albums. So anything surrounding that, B-sides, outtakes, are usually just all pretty great. And these 4 instrumentals are definitely worth your time. As I mentioned, got reissued, so it's no longer this obscure rarity, only on cassette. So you can find the tracks, streaming or on the 30th anniversary of the Wish album that came out back in 2022. Ouya Sound from The Cure. A beautiful, beautiful little song. All right, next up. So, this is from the 25th anniversary of U2's The Unforgettable Fire box set here. It's on the deluxe edition of that, which should be readily available. But this was a song that was just this unknown track to me. So when this came out, I was really excited to see the title Yoshino Blossom, because I had no idea what this song was. It is total New Year's Day vibes with piano melodies, which creates this interesting bridge of what I think of as like the first and second chapters of U2, anything leading up through the War album, so Boy, October, War, and then once they hit Unforgettable Fire, the sound of U2 kind of moved into the second era there, and I think that Yoshino Blossom is a really kind of a bridge teetering on both ends right there. But check that one out as well, Yoshino Blossom from U2. Okay, next up, this is the opening song from Dead Can Dance's 1984 self-titled debut album. If you're unfamiliar with Dead Can Dance, I'll leave a link. I know I mention this all the time, but my friends Frank and Greg and I, we went through the entire Dead Can Dance catalog along with the drummer from this album, Peter Ulrich. So be sure to check that link out if you want to hear more about Dead Can Dance. So anyways, this is the opening song, The Fatal Impact. After the first album, the sound of the band would continue to evolve in many different directions, but this is the band at its most, I'm going to put it in quotes, rock band setting, with drums, electric bass, electric guitars. And The Fatal Impact really sets the scene from the start as to what this album kind of is going to sound like, it with a big, loud, thunderous crash. It moves into this percussive groove. You have these guitar and bass melodies just weaving around one another. And you get these occasional lyricless, human voice crescendos in the background, almost like a chant. It's a fascinating song and really cool. The Fatal Impact, from the first Dead Can Dance album, going all the way back to 1984 there. All right, and let's close things off with, from Gary Numan's 1979 album, The Pleasure Principle, the opening song, Airlane. This was technically Gary Numan's debut album under his own name. He released two albums under his band, the Two Boy Army. You have the self-titled and then Replicas, which had Our Friends Electric, Down in the Park on it. But this is the album that brought us Cars. But the opening song on this one, Airlane, I always love the drum and bass groove on that one. That staccato bass line against that heavy hi-hat groove, and all those soaring backing kind of synth call and response lines. Just a great opener, and that's Airlane from Gary Numan. So there's 10 of my favorite alternative post-punk synth-pop instrumentals. I'm curious what you guys thought. What are some of your favorites? Leave me some comments, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.